Everyone, in this final unit, we are looking at the opportunities and the challenges represented by managing remote and hybrid teams, and of course, the associated vocabulary with these. So in this first one, we're looking at communication tools and challenges in remote teams. So a quick word on the rise of remote and hybrid work. Remote work is now integral to modern management, reshaping how organizations operate and connect teams worldwide. I think the benefits we're all aware of: potential flexibility in work hours, access to a diverse talent pool regardless of location, and reduced operational costs are key advantages driving remote and hybrid adoption. Key challenges are communication gaps, feelings of isolation, and navigating multiple time zones, and these create hurdles that require thoughtful solutions to maintain team cohesion. It's a very significant trend post-2020 in what we probably call the post-pandemic world. Remote and hybrid working has exploded. Currently around 70% of professionals work remotely at least once per week, highlighting this widespread adoption of remote practice in the last few years. So some key terminology and concepts that we want to think about when it comes to remote and hybrid working. We have two key terms: synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous is what we call real-time. So synchronous communication is real-time communication. So here we're talking about things like Zoom, Teams, and Slack calls, used for things like meetings and brainstorming, feedback as well. Asynchronous is time-delayed communication. Most typically email, any recorded updates, any projects, boards, anything that is put up at one moment and seen later is asynchronous. And these are best used for updates, task tracking, documentation, flow management, these kind of things. What are our key tools? So obviously for remote communication, we're going to need, in most cases, video conferencing. Most popular platforms, I don't think I'm unduly advertising these, they're very famous. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet. These flat platforms enable face-to-face virtual meetings, supporting real-time collaboration and presentations. Messaging collaboration tools such as Slack, Microsoft Teams Messenger, and Discord facilitate instant messaging, group chats, and collaborative workflows. And these keep teams connected throughout the day. For project management, we have tools like Trello, Asana, Monday.com, and Notion to help organize tasks, track progress, and manage deadlines in a transparent and collaborative manner. And for file sharing, again, very famous, got Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, and similar that allow secure storage and easy sharing of documents. So these are what these different tools are called: video conferencing, messaging collaboration tools, project management tools, and file sharing tools. Common challenges that we face when it comes to remote communication is there's often a lack of non-verbal cues. If I am reading an email or I'm reading a message, I can only see the words. I cannot see or hear the tone or the emotion behind the words, and it might not be obvious. Another thing we have to think about with international teams especially is time zone differences. Responses can be delayed. Things might not move as quickly or efficiently as they would or they could if everyone was working to the same rhythm. It can slow things up. There can be tool overload as well. So many apps to remember, to download, to access. It can be a little bit confusing, and also it makes us very, very reliant on the technology. And technology can fail. These apps can have glitches. We can have internet issues. We can have brief electricity blackouts. So when everything that we do is managed by online tools, it's not hard for something to go wrong. There's also maybe the question of how you're supposed to communicate. So we have all these cultural issues that we spoke about already in the course, but how do they transfer to written platforms? And how does the language in an email, for example, differ or is similar to the message that you would send in Slack? So we have these perhaps ambiguities around communication norms as well, amplified. Strategies to overcome these gaps in communications: well, we can establish clear channels, designate specific platforms for communication, such as email for formal messages and chat, ask for quick updates to reduce confusion and streamline interactions. You could have protocols about when it's appropriate to send emails and when it's appropriate to send messages, for example. We need document decisions. We need to document decisions. Record meeting outcomes, decisions, and action points in writing to ensure clarity, accountability, and easy reference for all team members. Rotate meeting times to make sure you annoy everyone equally. Schedule meetings at various times to fairly include team members across different time zones, enhancing participation and inclusivity. Because if you're always working, let's say 9 to 5 based on one particular time zone, it can cause a bit of resentment in the other time zones. Encourage questions. Foster an environment where team members feel comfortable asking questions and confirming understanding to avoid miscommunication. Because there is a greater danger of miscommunication through digital communication as opposed to face-to-face. Obviously, there are a lot of platforms that will allow us to use video and or text, and video calls when tone and nuance matter, and text-based communication when detailed information or records are required. So for example, if you were giving feedback to a member of your staff, it'd be better to do that via video. You can choose both your words and your tone appropriately. Whereas if you are giving a sequence of operations list, like 20 bullet points, a sequence to follow in order to do a particular process, tone doesn't really come into that. Just the information that's important, so that would be better written. So appropriate medium based on what it is that you're trying to communicate. Managing tone and clarity in written English. So first of all, structure. Keep messages organized. Start with a greeting, state the purpose. That's really important. State that whatever you're writing, it should be very clear early why you're writing. Specify the required action and close with a polite sign off. This helps the reader follow the message easily. So whatever you're writing, polite greeting, what do you want? What do you want the other person to do? Polite sign off. Avoid ambiguity, especially in written communication, because in spoken communication there can be instant feedback. So, don't say, I need that report finished soon, because what is soon? Soon's very subjective. You say, I need the report finished by 3 p.m. Thursday. 3 p.m. CET, for example, Central European Time Thursday, if it's an international team, just to get rid of all the ambiguity. Use direct yet courteous language. So instead of, hey, can you maybe send that file? If you're the boss and you need something done, if you're the leader, the manager, and you're asking for something to be complete, can you maybe doesn't really come into it. Could you please send the updated file by the end of the day? It's still very polite, still using could, but it's clear, it's unambiguous, and it's obviously an instruction that has to be followed. Encouraging team connection online. So we can do personal check-ins. Start meetings with brief personal updates to foster openness and emotional connection among team members. Obviously, that only works up until a certain number, right? If you have 50 people in your team, you're not going to ask them about, what did each of you do individually this weekend. But what you can do is ask a few people, and then in the next meeting, ask different people. You can make, if you're able to keep track of it. Celebrate wins. Use chat channels like #kudos or #weekly wins to acknowledge achievements and boost team morale. When people are working remotely, it can be quite isolating, and it can maybe be quite difficult to know if your work is being noticed or seen or appreciated. So demonstrating that it is powerful. Informal sessions, those casual virtual gatherings such as coffee chats or virtual lunches to build camaraderie beyond the work topics. So I know a lot of teams that work only online will dedicate 10 or 15 minutes a day, maybe after lunch or mid-afternoon when maybe things are winding down, to have a chat. So whereas in a real company and in a physical space, you might have a chat on the way to the coffee machine, you might have a chat with your neighbor across the desk, have a chat while you're, downstairs having a cigarette, whatever. So we try and recreate that online. It's not the same, but I think the effort's always appreciated. Encourage cameras on. This is a big one. People don't like to have their camera on, generally speaking. Promote turning on cameras during meetings to enhance trust, rapport, and non-verbal communication. I know from experience that giving a presentation to 20 turned off cameras is a bit of an odd sensation and not particularly pleasant. So for the sake of the person talking and for the sake of team building, team bonding, it's much better if everyone, if possible, has their cameras on. What's the manager's role in all this? Set clear expectations. Managers should clearly define availability and response times to avoid misunderstandings and ensure smooth communication flow across time zones. So the manager has to set the tone, expectations, clarity, processes. Model transparency and tone. Leaders must demonstrate openness and maintain a positive, inclusive tone to foster trust and encourage honest dialogue within the remote team, just as you would within a team that's physically together. Amplify all voices. Ensure quieter team members are encouraged to participate and regularly solicit feedback on communication tools and workflows for continuous improvement. So yeah, if you have someone whose tendency is to maybe not talk, to be a little bit quiet, that tendency will be amplified when they are, sitting in their own home. They won't feel generally under any sort of pressure to contribute unless you make them, basically. But make them in a nice way, because it's beneficial for everyone. Sometimes the quieter ones are the ones with the best insights and the best ideas. In fact, that's quite often the case. So summing it all up, remote success requires a balanced mix of tools, communication clarity, and tone sensitivity. Managers must juggle efficiency, empathy, and consistent communication practices. Clear English writing and awareness of tone reduce misunderstandings and build trust. A couple of things for you guys to think about. Consider your team's common tools, communication challenges, and how to apply these strategies for better clarity and connection. If, of course, you work as part of a remote or a hybrid team. Reflect on how today's insights can enhance your remote team's communication and collaboration. Are there any? So obviously this is primarily for those of you who work remotely, but there are lessons here we can also take for teams that work within the same physical space. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.